The text message glared at me from my husband's phone. Missing you already. Last night was incredible. My hands trembled as I read it again, though I'd already memorized every word. 3 years of marriage, and this was how I discovered Daryl's true colours. I'm Bailey, and this is how my life imploded on an ordinary Tuesday morning. You're being paranoid, honey, my mother Vivienne's voice crackled through my phone speaker. Daryl would never cheat on you. He's such a good provider. I paced our kitchen, my bare feet cold against the tile floor. Mum, I saw the messages. They're from his co-worker Kylie. There are hotel receipts in his email. Maybe it's for work. You know how many business trips he takes. The dismissal in her voice made my stomach churn. Work trips don't include heart emojis and lingerie photos, Mom. Bailey, stop. You're embarrassing yourself. What will people think? I hung up and slumped against the counter, fighting back tears. My own mother choosing appearances over truth. Again. The front door clicked open and Daryl's whistling filled the hallway. I quickly wiped my eyes and straightened up. Hey, babe! He strode in, all perfect smile and designer suit. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. I watched his face carefully. How was your late meeting last night? His smile didn't waver. Productive. We finally closed the Henderson deal. Really? At the Marriott downtown? The briefest flicker crossed his face before he recovered. What are you talking about? I held up his phone. You left this on the counter this morning, forgot to lock it. The colour drained from his face. You went through my phone. Don't you dare make this about privacy, Daryl. How long have you been sleeping with Kylie? He ran his hands through his hair, switching tactics. Baby, it's not what you think. She's just... Don't. My voice shook. Don't lie to me anymore. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. My father Ernest's booming voice called out, Bailey? Daryl? Daryl's expression shifted to something calculating. We should talk about this later, he whispered urgently. Before I could respond, my father walked in. There you are. Vivienne called me, said you were having some sort of crisis. Dad, Bailey's just tired. Daryl cut in smoothly, placing his hand on my shoulder. I flinched away. She found some work emails and jumped to conclusions. My father's face hardened. Is this true, Bailey? Are you causing trouble again? Again? I stared at him incredulously. When have I ever... Remember Tommy Peterson in high school? You accused him of cheating on you too, and it turned out he was planning your birthday party. I was 16. This is completely different. Sweetheart, Daryl's voice dripped with concern, maybe you should lie down. You're not thinking clearly. I watched in horror as my father nodded sympathetically. Listen to your husband, Bailey. He only wants what's best for you. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Adeline. Got your message? I'm outside. Need backup? I grabbed my purse. I need some air. Bailey, my father's warning tone stopped me at the door. Don't do anything rash. Think about the family. I turned back, meeting Daryl's smug expression. Oh, I am thinking about family, and I'm thinking about how easily they can betray you. I slammed the door behind me, practically running to Adeline's car. As I slid into the passenger seat, she took one look at my face and pulled away from the curb. Your mom called me, she said. Tried to convince me to talk some sense into you. I laughed bitterly. Of course she did. Heaven forbid their perfect son-in-law's reputation get tarnished. So, what's the plan? I pulled out my phone, opening the screenshots I'd taken. First, we're going to the bank. There's something weird about these messages. Kylie mentioned something about the account being ready. I need to know what they're hiding. And then? I thought about Daryl's smug face, my father's dismissal, my mother's denial. Then we're going to burn their perfect little world to the ground. Adeline grinned. Now that sounds like a plan I can get behind. As we drove away, I caught a glimpse of Daryl watching from the window, phone pressed to his ear. Let him scramble. Let him worry. Because what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that his text messages to Kylie weren't the only things I'd found on his phone that morning. There was something much darker hiding in his email drafts. Something that would make his affair look like a minor indiscretion in comparison. Account number 547891. The bank teller frowned at her screen. I'm sorry, but I don't see any joint accounts with that number. It has to be there, I insisted, showing her the screenshot from Daryl's phone. Could you check again? She shook her head. The only accounts I see are your personal checking and the joint household account. Adeline squeezed my arm. Try his name alone. I'm sorry, but I can't access accounts where you're not listed as an owner. Walking out of the third bank that morning, I kicked a trash can in frustration. Dead end. Again. Not necessarily, Adeline said, pulling me toward a coffee shop. Your brother-in-law, Aidan, works in finance, right? Maybe he knows something. I stopped short. That's actually brilliant. 20 minutes later, we sat across from Aidan in his sleek downtown office. He looked exactly like Daryl, but with kinder eyes and worse fashion sense. Bailey, this is a surprise. He hugged me warmly. Everything okay? Daryl mentioned something about you being upset this morning. Did he mention why? Aidan shifted uncomfortably. He said you weren't feeling well, might be making some accusations. Show him, Adeline nudged me. I handed over my phone. Aidan's face darkened as he scrolled through the messages. That son of a... I'm so sorry, Bailey. I need your help, Aidan. There's something weird about their messages. They keep referencing an account, but I can't find it at any local banks. He frowned. Could be offshore. Actually. He trailed off, looking troubled. What? Last month, Daryl asked me about setting up a shell corporation. Said it was for a client. I gave him some basic information, including a contact in the Cayman Islands. My heart raced. Did he use it? I don't know, but... Aidan typed something into his computer. Hold on. Last week, he had me sign some paperwork as a witness. Said it was routine business stuff, but he seemed nervous. Do you have copies? No, but I remember the company name. Blue Harbor Ventures. I wrote it down with shaking hands. Aidan, I need one more favor. Don't tell Daryl about this conversation. He looked between me and the messages again. Count on it. And Bailey. Whatever he's involved in, be careful. Back in Adeline's car, my phone exploded with notifications. 3 missed calls from my mother, 2 from my father, and a text from my brother Seth. Mum's having a meltdown. What's going on? We should call Seth, Adeline suggested. He's always had your back. I dialed his number. He answered immediately. Finally! Are you okay? Not really. Can you meet us? 30 minutes later, we sat in a quiet corner of a diner. Seth listened intently as I explained everything, his expression growing darker. I knew something was off with Daryl lately, he said. Last month at Dad's birthday, I overheard him arguing with someone on the phone about moving the timeline up. There's more, I said. I found something in his email drafts, messages to someone about cleaning money through real estate deals. Seth, I think he's involved in something illegal. Jesus, Seth ran a hand through his hair. Have you told Mom and Dad? They won't listen. They think I'm making everything up. Classic Mom and Dad, he scoffed. Remember when I tried to tell them about catching Dad's business partner embezzling? They didn't believe me until the FBI showed up. My phone buzzed. Daryl again. I declined the call. What's your next move? Seth asked. Blue Harbor Ventures. If Daryl's hiding money, that's where we'll find it. Seth pulled out his laptop. Let me help. I know some people who... He stopped mid-sentence, staring at his screen. Bailey, look at this. He turned the laptop around. On the screen was a news article from 3 years ago. Local real estate developer found dead in apparent suicide. Below was a photo of a man I'd never seen before, but the name made my blood run cold. He was the previous owner of Blue Harbor Ventures. The article says he was about to be indicted for money laundering, Seth read. The company was sold shortly after his death. Bailey, the sale date matches when Daryl first started his business trips. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Daryl. Coming home late tonight. Business dinner with Aidan. I showed it to Seth, who immediately pulled out his phone and called his wife. Hey, is Aidan home? He is. Thanks. He hung up. his face grim. Aiden's been homesick all day. Daryl's lying. Again, I whispered. Bailey, Adeline's voice was urgent. Look who just walked into the diner. Through the window, I saw Kylie getting out of her car, heading for the entrance. She hadn't seen us yet. Seth grabbed our things. Back door, now. As we slipped out, I caught a glimpse of Kylie answering her phone, her face anxious. Whatever Daryl was involved in, she was deep in it too, and I was getting closer to the truth. Seth's apartment felt like a war room, with laptops open and papers scattered across his dining table. My head spun as memories crashed over me, everything taking on new meaning in light of what we'd discovered. Remember when you first met Daryl? Adeline asked, sorting through bank statements. I did. The charity gala 5 years ago. He'd seemed so genuine, passionate about his real estate development projects, helping low-income communities. He said all the right things, I muttered, played the perfect part. Look at this, Seth interrupted, pointing at his screen. Blue Harbour Ventures has purchased 6 properties in the last 2 years, all cash deals. That's not unusual for real estate, I said. No, but this is... Every property was condemned within months of purchase, then resold at massive profits to shell companies that disappear. My phone lit up with a text from my mother. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof because of your behaviour. Come home and apologise to Daryl. I threw the phone across the couch. Bailey, Adeline's voice was strange. When did Daryl take that trip to Miami last year? March, I think. Why? She held up a document. Because according to this, he was in the Cayman Islands, meeting with someone named Marcus. The name hit me like a punch. Marcus? Daryl mentioned that name in his sleep last week. He sounded scared. Seth's printer whirred to life. Found something else. The previous owner of Blue Harbour? His suicide note was typed. His wife insisted he never typed anything, said he was old school, wrote everything by hand. Jesus, Adeline whispered. A knock at the door made us all jump. Seth checked the security camera and relaxed. It's just Aiden. But when he opened the door, Aiden wasn't alone. My father stood behind him. What the hell is this? Dad demanded, storming in. Some kind of conspiracy meeting? How did you know I was here? I asked. Tracked your phone, he said dismissively. Bailey, this has gone far enough. You're embarrassing the family. Embarrassing the family? I stood up, anger burning through me. Daryl is cheating on me and possibly involved in criminal activity, but you're worried about embarrassment? Criminal activity? Aiden looked pale. What are you talking about? Seth quickly filled him in. With each detail, Aiden's face grew more shocked. The Shell Corporation paperwork, he said slowly. There was something else. A list of offshore accounts. I thought it was weird, but Daryl said it was standard practice for high-end real estate deals. Ernest, Seth turned to our father. You have to see this isn't normal. Dad's face reddened. All I see is my children trying to destroy a good man's reputation. Daryl has done nothing but provide for this family. He even helped me secure investors for my retirement fund. Something clicked. What investors, Dad? Through Blue Harbour. Daryl set it all up. Guaranteed returns, tax-free offshore accounts. The room went silent. Seth and I exchanged horrified looks. Dad, I said carefully, did you give Daryl money to invest? Of course I did. Your mother and I both did. Our entire retirement fund. My legs gave out. Adeline caught me before I hit the floor. How much? Seth demanded. 2 million. Dad's voice wavered for the first time. Why? What's wrong? Before anyone could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Back off, Bailey, or the next suicide won't be faked. I showed it to Seth, whose face hardened. Dad, sit down. There's something you need to see. For the next hour, we walked him through everything, the properties, the shell companies, the suspicious death. With each revelation, his face grew grayer. This can't be right, he kept saying. Daryl wouldn't... He would, Aiden's voice cracked, and I helped him. God, I signed those papers without even reading them. Another text lit up my phone, from my mother. Daryl just came by, says you're spreading vicious lies. How could you do this to us? Mom's retirement fund, I whispered. All their savings. We need to go to the police, Adeline said. No, Seth and Aidan spoke simultaneously. Not yet, Seth continued. If Daryl suspects we're onto him, that money disappears forever. We need proof first. I might know where to get it, Aidan said quietly. There's a property Daryl never lets anyone visit. An old warehouse on the east side. He keeps it off all official records, but I saw the deed once. Then that's our next stop, I said, standing up. Bailey. My father's voice stopped me. He looked suddenly old, defeated. I'm sorry, I should have listened. I squeezed his hand. We're going to fix this, Dad, but first, we need to find out exactly what we're dealing with. What we didn't know then was that the warehouse would change everything and put all our lives in danger. The warehouse loomed before us in the fading daylight, its broken windows like dark, empty eyes. Seth pulled his car around back, killing the engine. Security cameras, Aidan pointed out, but they're fake. Daryl had me order them last year, just empty shells to scare people off. How do we get in? I asked. Service entrance. Aidan led us to a rusty door. I saw him use this once, the code should be. He punched in numbers. The lock clicked. Wait! Seth grabbed my arm. Maybe you should stay in the car. Not a chance. Inside, our flashlights revealed mountains of filing cabinets and stacked boxes. The air smelled of mold and something else, something chemical. Over here, Adeline called out. She stood before a newer-looking door with a keypad. This looks important. Aidan tried the same code. Nothing. Try his birthday, I suggested. No. Wait. Aidan's face lit up. The date Blue Harbour was incorporated. He punched in the numbers. The door swung open. The room beyond was different. Clean, organised, with a desk and computer. File boxes lined the walls, each labelled with property addresses. Look for anything about Marcus, Seth said, booting up the computer. I grabbed the nearest box and started digging. The documents inside made my stomach turn. Fake inspection reports, forged permits, wire transfers to numbered accounts. Guys, Adeline's voice shook. These aren't just property records. They're proof of money laundering. Millions of dollars worth. Found Marcus, Seth announced from the computer. Multiple emails between him and Daryl. They're... Jesus. What? They're discussing how to handle the previous owner of Blue Harbour, the one who supposedly committed suicide. A noise from outside the room made us freeze. Footsteps. Hide, Seth hissed. We scrambled behind filing cabinets just as voices approached. The money needs to move tonight, a woman said. Kylie. It's not that simple, Daryl's voice replied. Bailey's digging. She got to Aidan somehow. Then shut her up. Marcus is getting nervous. He doesn't like loose ends. She's my wife. She's a liability like the last one. My blood ran cold. The last one? That was different, Daryl said. He was going to talk to the FBI. And now your wife is talking to anyone who'll listen. Fix it, Daryl, or Marcus will. Their footsteps retreated. The outer door clicked shut. We emerged from hiding, faces pale. The last one, Adeline whispered. Bailey, you don't think... The previous owner, Seth said grimly. They killed him. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone, ready to call the police. No signal. We need to get out of here, Aidan said. Now. We grabbed what documents we could, but as we reached the outer door, headlights swept across the windows. A car was pulling up. Back door, Seth whispered. We crept through the warehouse, hearts pounding. A door slammed outside. Check everything, an unfamiliar male voice ordered. If they've been here, I want to know. We reached the back door just as footsteps entered the warehouse. Seth eased it open, wincing at the creak. Did you hear that? The voice asked. Run! Seth pushed me forward. We sprinted across the parking lot. A shout behind us, then the crack of a gunshot. Adeline screamed. Split up! Seth yelled. Meet at the safe place. I ran with Aidan toward a fence while Seth and Adeline went the other way. More shots rang out. Up and over. Aidan boosted me onto the fence. I scrambled across, then helped pull him up. We didn't stop running until we reached his car, parked several blocks away. Shaking, I checked my phone. 1 bar of signal. Call Seth, Aidan gasped. The phone rang 4 times before Seth answered. We're okay. We're safe. Meet you there. 20 minutes later, we regrouped at Seth's friend's cabin outside town. As soon as I saw Adeline and Seth, I broke down crying. The documents, Seth pulled crumpled papers from his jacket. We got enough. Bank records, emails, everything. They tried to kill us. Adeline's voice trembled. They actually shot at us. My phone buzzed. Daryl. Where are you? Your mother's worried sick. Another text followed. Come home, Bailey. We can work this out. Then a third. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Bailey. Seth gripped my shoulders. We need to take this to the FBI. Tonight. What about Mom and Dad's money? If we don't stop this now, more people will die. Aiden's voice was firm. Like the last owner. Like they're planning for you. I took a deep breath and dialed the FBI's number. As it rang, another text from Daryl appeared. Last chance, Bailey. Think about your family. I was thinking about my family. And I was going to save them from the monster they'd welcomed into our lives. Mrs. Brooks, FBI agent Sarah leaned forward in her chair. We've been investigating Blue Harbor Ventures for months, but we never had enough evidence to move forward. Until now. The federal building's interview room felt cold and sterile. Seth sat beside me while Aiden and Adeline gave separate statements down the hall. What happens next? I asked. We move carefully, Agent Sarah replied. Your husband has powerful connections. We need to coordinate with multiple jurisdictions, freeze accounts. My phone lit up. Mom again. Family emergency meeting. Now. Your father's not well. They're trying to lure you out, Seth warned. Agent Sarah nodded. We can protect you, but you'll need to stay in a safe house. What about my parents? We'll watch them too, but... The door burst open. Another agent rushed in, face tense. We have a problem. Someone tipped them off. Accounts are being emptied as we speak. How many? All of them, including the ones linked to the parents' retirement fund. My stomach lurched. No. There's more, the agent continued. Kylie Salazar just booked a flight to the Caymans. Leaves in 2 hours. Agent Sarah cursed. We can't touch her there. Not without a lengthy legal process. I can. I stood up. Bailey, no. Seth grabbed my arm. She knows everything, Seth, and she's about to disappear with our parents' money. It's too dangerous, Agent Sarah warned. Then arrest her. We don't have enough to hold her yet. The documents you provided are still being authenticated. I checked the time. The airport's 30 minutes away. I can get her to talk. Absolutely not, Agent Sarah said firmly. But I was already moving. Seth followed me out. This is insane, he said as we rushed to his car. You don't have to come. Like hell I don't. We reached the airport with an hour to spare. I spotted Kylie immediately at the first-class check-in, designer luggage at her feet. Stay back, I told Seth. Be ready with your phone. I approached her slowly. She saw me coming and froze. Running away, Kylie? She glanced around nervously. I'm late for my flight. To the Caymans? With my parents' retirement fund? I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Should we call Marcus and ask him? Her face went white. You don't know what you're dealing with. I know about the previous owner, the suicide that wasn't. Bailey, her voice dropped to a whisper. If you know what's good for you, you'll walk away. Like you walked away with $2 million of my parents' money. Better than walking away in a body bag. Is that what happened to Daryl's first wife? Kylie's composure cracked. What? You mentioned the last one at the warehouse, but the previous owner was a man. So who are you talking about? She grabbed my arm, pulling me aside. Stop digging, please. You have no idea what these people are capable of. Then tell me. She looked around again, then leaned in close. Daryl's first wife didn't die in a car accident like everyone thinks. She found out about the operation, about Marcus, about everything. My blood ran cold. Daryl killed her. Marcus did. Made it look like an accident, just like he did with the previous owner when he wouldn't play ball. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know what I was getting into. By the time I figured it out, I was in too deep. Help us stop them. I can't. They'll kill me. We can protect you. The FBI is already here. Agent Sarah's voice came from behind us. Kylie spun around to find herself surrounded by agents. How? Your phone, I said. Seth was broadcasting our entire conversation to them. Kylie's shoulders slumped. If I talk, I want protection. Already arranged, Agent Sarah said, leading her away. My phone buzzed one last time. Daryl, you've made a terrible mistake. Then another text from an unknown number. Smart girl, but not smart enough. Check on your parents. My heart stopped. I showed Seth the message. Go, Agent Sarah ordered. We'll send backup. We raced to our parents' house, breaking every speed limit. The front door was open when we arrived. Inside, we found Mom crying on the couch. Dad nowhere in sight. Where is he? I demanded. Daryl came by, she sobbed. Said he needed Dad's help with some urgent paperwork. They left 20 minutes ago. Where? The warehouse. Daryl said something about saving what was left of the retirement fund. Seth was already calling Agent Sarah as we ran back to the car, but we both knew we might be too late. The sun was setting as we sped toward the warehouse, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this time someone wasn't making it out alive. FBI's 10 minutes out, Seth said as we parked a block from the warehouse. We should wait. Dad doesn't have 10 minutes. I was already moving, staying in the shadows. 2 cars sat in the warehouse parking lot, Daryl's Mercedes and a black SUV I'd never seen before. Voices drifted from inside. Get closer, I whispered to Seth, but stay hidden. We crept to a broken window. Inside, Dad stood with Daryl and a tall man I assumed was Marcus. Dad's face was ashen. Sign it, Marcus said, pushing papers across a table. Transfer everything to the new accounts. Ernest? Daryl's voice was gentle, reasonable. It's the only way to protect what's left. What happened to the rest? Dad's voice shook. Your daughter happened, Marcus snapped. Her little FBI stunt triggered our fail-safes. Most accounts are already emptied. You promised, Dad started. I promised returns if you kept quiet, Daryl cut in. Bailey changed the game. Sign it, Marcus repeated, or your retirement fund won't be your biggest problem. Dad picked up the pen. My heart raced. Don't. I stepped through the door before Seth could stop me. Everyone spun around. Daryl's face darkened. Marcus reached under his jacket. Bailey, run, Dad yelled. Nobody's running. Marcus pulled out a gun. Though I'm glad you're here, Bailey. Saves us the trouble of hunting you down. The FBI's already on their way, I said. Then we'll make this quick. He turned to Daryl. Handle your wife. I'll deal with Daddy dearest. Daryl stepped toward me. You should have left it alone, Bailey. Like your first wife did? He stopped cold. Dad looked between us, confused. What is she talking about? Tell him, Daryl, I pressed. Tell him how you and Marcus murdered her when she discovered your scheme, just like you murdered the previous owner of Blue Harbor. That's a lie, Dad said weakly. Ask him about the suicide note, I continued. Ask him why it was typed when everyone knew the man never used computers. Enough, Marcus raised the gun. Or ask about the offshore accounts, I kept talking, watching Seth slip through another entrance behind them. Ask where the money really went. Ask about the properties that mysteriously burned down after being insured for millions. I said enough, Marcus aimed at my chest. Several things happened at once. Dad lunged for Marcus. Daryl reached for me, and Seth brought a metal pipe down on Marcus's arm. The gun went off, the bullet hitting a wall. I drove my knee into Daryl's stomach as he grabbed me. He doubled over but managed to catch my ankle as I tried to run. Marcus recovered quickly, shoving Dad aside and reaching for the dropped gun. Seth kicked it away, sending it sliding across the floor. You're both dead, Marcus snarled, pulling another gun from an ankle holster. Sirens wailed in the distance. It's over, I gasped, still struggling with Daryl. Kylie told them everything. Kylie? Daryl's grip loosened slightly. She's in protective custody. The FBI has all the documents, all the proof. You're lying, Marcus said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Check your phone, Seth suggested. Check the news. The story's already breaking. Marcus pulled out his phone with his free hand. His face went pale. The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flashed outside. We need to go, Marcus grabbed Daryl's arm. Now! Daryl released me, backing away. I'm sorry, Bailey, I never meant... Save it, I spat. They ran for the back door, but Seth's voice stopped them. That exit's already covered. He was bluffing, but they didn't know that. They hesitated just long enough for the FBI to burst in through the main entrance. Federal agents, hands up! Marcus raised his gun. 3 agents fired simultaneously. He dropped, clutching his shoulder. Daryl immediately raised his hands. I can explain everything. Save it for your lawyer, Agent Sarah said, cuffing him. Dad sat heavily on a nearby chair, looking shell-shocked. Bailey, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I hugged him tightly. It's okay, Dad. No, it's not. He pulled back, his eyes wet. Your mother and I, we were so wrong about everything. Mr. Brooks, Agent Sarah approached. We'll need your statement. As Dad followed her, Seth pulled me aside. You okay? I watched Daryl being led away in handcuffs, his perfect facade finally crumbling. I will be. My phone buzzed. Adeline. Just saw the news. You did it. But it wasn't over yet. There was still one more confrontation waiting, telling Mom the whole truth about the man she'd defended so fiercely. And somehow, that scared me more than anything else that had happened tonight. The family room felt smaller than I remembered. Mom paced by the window while Dad sat slumped in his armchair. Seth and Adeline flanked me on the couch like bodyguards. This is ridiculous, Mom said for the 3rd time. There must be some mistake. The FBI doesn't make mistakes like this, Vivian. Dad's voice was tired. I saw everything with my own eyes. But Daryl wouldn't. He did, I cut in. And you need to hear all of it. I nodded to Seth, who opened his laptop and pulled up the news articles. Mom's hands shook as she read the headlines. Local real estate developer arrested in money laundering scheme. Blue Harbor Ventures linked to previous owner's death. Multiple arrests in multi-million-dollar fraud case. There's more, I said softly. About his first wife. Mom's head snapped up. What about her? She didn't die in a car accident. I took a deep breath. They killed her because she discovered what they were doing. No, Mom collapsed into a chair. No, that's not. He was devastated when she died. He could barely talk about it. Because he was guilty, Seth said. The FBI found evidence in Marcus's files, emails discussing how to handle her, just like they planned to handle Bailey. They shot at us, Mom, I added. At the warehouse. They were going to kill me, too. Mom's face crumpled. But he was family. We trusted him. I defended him to everyone. That's what he counted on, Adeline spoke up. He used your loyalty against you. The retirement fund, Mom turned to Dad. Tell me we didn't lose everything. Dad couldn't meet her eyes. They're trying to recover what they can, but most of it's gone. A knock at the door made everyone jump. Agent Sarah entered, looking grim. We found something else, she said. Mrs. Brooks, we need to discuss your signature on some documents. My signature? Mom frowned. What documents? Transfer papers for additional properties under Blue Harbor Ventures. Your signature appears on several of them. That's impossible. I never signed anything. Show her. Agent Sarah handed over a file. Mom's face went white as she looked at the papers. These aren't my signatures. Someone forged them. We believe Daryl used these documents to secure additional loans. The properties were then intentionally condemned and resold at massive profits. He forged my signature? Mom's voice cracked. How many times? We've identified 17 instances so far. Mom stood up suddenly, running to the bathroom. We could hear her getting sick. She'll need to make a formal statement, Agent Sarah said quietly. I'll bring her in tomorrow, Dad promised. After Agent Sarah left, Mom emerged, her face streaked with tears. I kept telling you to apologize to him, she said, looking at me. I called you paranoid, difficult. My own daughter, and I chose him. Mom, no, let me finish, she straightened up. I failed you, Bailey. I failed this whole family. I was so concerned with appearances, with what people would think. We all were, Dad added. We let him blind us. The preliminary hearing is next week, Seth said. They want us all to testify. Mom nodded firmly. Good. I want to look him in the eye when I tell the truth. You'll have to face him, Adeline warned. Both of them. Marcus will be there too. I'm not afraid anymore, Mom said. I'm angry. My phone buzzed. A text from Aiden. Just finished my FBI interview. You need to see what they found in Daryl's private email. What is it? Seth asked, seeing my expression. I don't know, but Aiden's coming over. 20 minutes later, Aiden burst in, waving a stack of papers. They found emails between Daryl and Marcus going back 5 years, he said. Before he even met Bailey, they planned everything, including how to infiltrate your family. What do you mean? Dad asked. They researched you, all of you. They knew about your retirement fund, your connections in the community. They chose you specifically. Mom made a small, broken sound. The charity gala where we met, I said slowly. That wasn't coincidence, was it? No, Aiden confirmed. They orchestrated the whole thing. Every moment of your relationship was calculated. The room fell silent as the full weight of the manipulations sank in. The hearing, Mom said finally. I don't want to just testify. I want to make a victim impact statement. I want everyone to know exactly what he did to this family. We'll all be there, Seth promised. Together, Dad added, taking Mom's hand. I looked around at my family, battered but unbroken. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something like hope. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Daryl had one last surprise waiting. Something we hadn't discovered yet. And I was right. The courthouse hallway buzzed with tension. Reporters clustered outside, held back by security. Mom gripped my hand as we waited to enter. Ready? Seth asked. Before I could answer, Adeline rushed up, waving her phone. You need to see this, now. She pulled us into an empty conference room and played a video. It showed Daryl in his jail cell speaking to someone off camera. If I'm going down, his voice was cold, the whole family burns. Play the recording. The video cut to security footage of Dad's office from 3 years ago. Dad sat at his desk counting cash, lots of cash. He was setting us up, I whispered. The whole time he was gathering blackmail material. There's more, Adeline said. This just leaked to every major news outlet. Mum's face hardened. Let me see that phone. She watched the video twice, then straightened her jacket. Good, good. Dad looked stricken. Vivian, that video shows you counting the cash from selling your classic car collection to invest in Blue Harbor, she finished. We have the bill of sale, remember? Dated and notarized. Understanding dawned on Dad's face. The money I gave Daryl to invest. Exactly, Mom smiled grimly. His attempt to frame you just proved the fraud. He documented his own crime. Agent Sarah appeared in the doorway. They're ready for us. The courtroom fell silent as we entered. Daryl and Marcus sat at the defense table, both in suits that couldn't quite hide their prison jumpsuits underneath. Daryl's eyes locked onto mine. I stared back, refusing to flinch. The proceedings moved quickly. Kylie testified first, detailing the money laundering operation. Then came the forensic accountants, the evidence from the warehouse, the forged documents. Finally, Mom stood for her victim impact statement. I trusted you, she began, looking directly at Daryl. We all did. You didn't just steal our money. You stole our faith in people, our sense of family. Her voice grew stronger. But here's what you didn't steal. Our strength, our truth, our ability to stand here today and make sure you never hurt another family again. Daryl's smug expression faltered. Oh, and that video you leaked this morning, Mom continued. Thank you for providing documented proof of exactly when and how you took our money. The prosecutors are especially grateful. Marcus cursed under his breath. Daryl's lawyer looked like he might be sick. The judge's verdict was swift and severe. 25 years for Daryl, 30 for Marcus. Full restitution ordered. As they led Daryl away, he called out, Bailey, wait! No, I cut him off. You don't get to speak to me anymore. Not ever again. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. "Mrs. Brooks," one called out, "how does it feel to know your husband orchestrated this entire fraud?" "Ex-husband," I corrected. "And it feels like justice." "Mr. and Mrs. Brooks," another asked my parents, "what about the video released this morning?" Dad stepped forward. "That video shows me selling my prized possessions to invest in what I thought was my son-in-law's legitimate business. Instead, that money funded his criminal enterprise. But today, justice was served." Back home, we gathered in the family room, the same room where this all started. But everything felt different now. "The FBI found most of the money," Seth announced, hanging up his phone. "It was hidden in accounts under the names of Daryl's shell companies. They're working on returning it." "All of it?" Dad asked. "Almost. Enough." Mom touched the divorce papers on the coffee table, signed, filed, and finally finished. "What now?" "Now," Adeline said, "we celebrate. You all deserve it." First, I picked up my phone. One last thing. I pulled up my social media and typed, "To anyone who's ever been gaslit, disbelieved, or manipulated, your truth matters. Stand strong. Justice is possible. Trust yourself." "Post it," Mom said softly. I did. The responses flooded in immediately. Messages of support, similar stories, offers of help. A community of strength rising from the ashes of betrayal. "Bailey," Dad called from the kitchen. "Come see this." On the TV, breaking news showed Marcus being led into another police car. The headline read, "New evidence links Blue Harbor suspects to 3 additional deaths." "It's really over," I breathed. "No," Mom corrected, putting her arm around me. "It's just beginning. We're stronger now, wiser." "And together," Seth added. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from an unknown number. But this time I didn't feel afraid. I deleted it without reading it. Whatever Daryl had left to say, whatever secrets were still hidden, they didn't matter anymore. We had our truth, our family, and our future. And that was everything.